Hi guys, so Dwayne from OzCane here. In the image that you can see changing colour, I'm the guy with the colourful jacket and the cap on. In this video, William and I show why it's important to fail when training, or to test ideas you have and see if they will work. Test the techniques that you do know and see what their limitations are. There are a lot of videos on YouTube where people will show you these fantastic techniques with all the aggression in the world, and they're either going to show you it working on a partner who's acting a bit like a spare prick at a wedding and just standing around limp and getting their asses kicked while they're actually not retaliating or being difficult. Or you're going to have someone show a video and they're just going to talk it to death. And you'll have one technique and they'll stretch it out for 8 minutes and they've only done it once, and they just tell you all the wheres and wherefores. But the fact of the matter is, training isn't about just getting it right and to make that technique work. Training is finding the limitations of your techniques and testing any ideas that you can't get out of your mind. You just keep going on and on. You're like, you know what, I'm going to put it to the test. And if it doesn't work, I'll learn not to do it again. So this video will show us doing a few techniques in different ways and showing why they will not work. And you'll see that we use William as the guinea pig mostly for this. Enjoy. Okay, so we're going to break this down. As you can see, William has stopped the knife with both hands, and it looks like a relatively successful technique. But we've seen this before, this kind of hold. And if you've seen an earlier video about how we break out of holds, this is going to be the limitation of this technique. There are a few others, but let's have a look at this. And there's your breakout of that hold. William wouldn't have survived that technique. So let's look at one that's a bit better. The cross block technique that William uses here does not give me the leverage I need to reverse this into a trapping technique against William and continue with my stabbing. Oh. Perhaps one advantage of the two-handed grab technique is if you're wanting to pull that person through and just get rid of them. Okay, so I don't particularly like this technique, which we're showing here, and we'll see why in a moment. But what I want to focus on here is that even though William has successfully blocked my arm, he hasn't distracted me in any way. And distraction is probably an important aspect of defense against a knife. What's happening here is, whilst William's diddy bopping around with my arm, I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do to get out of this? And he hasn't really disrupted my flow. He's disrupted the flow of my arm, but my mind is still thinking, I'm going to get this guy. And I've seen this many a time on videos on YouTube where someone will show you a technique to stop a knife and they're focusing on the knife and they forget that the other person has a free hand to clobber you one in the head, or they're still thinking because you haven't given them something else to think about. So let's have a look at the result of this. So this technique didn't really end up as advertised. Let's have a look at how this technique would work if William had put in a distraction and what I would consider a better block. Well, that certainly stopped me thinking about what I'm going to do next, because now I've got another problem on my hands. He struck me, and you know, in this video obviously he's not really giving me a hard palm strike, but that'll pretty much shake the sense back into me.
That's the one.
Yeah, that worked. So let's look at the other reason why using your hand to block a knife will fail. Especially if someone's wanting to stick a knife in you, they're going to come in a lot harder and faster. And your hand is kind of flexible at the wrist. You have fingers and thumbs that can bend backwards. And as you will see in this next strike, that becomes an issue, and is the reason why I would prefer a forearm block myself, and why William would use a forearm block too. Well, that's the reason why we wear safety glasses. That and the fact we play with sticks. But as you can see there, when William applied his hand block, and this is quite a common block I've seen in different styles of Kung Fu and so on, I went straight through his thumb and fingers, and that knife pretty much hit him in the glasses and bounced off his head. So in a real situation, I think I would have won that fight.
Oh shit, you right? Yeah.
So with the next technique, William is going to use the traditional forearm block as used in medieval combat and as used in such martial arts as karate and some styles of Kung Fu. And the reason why this block is probably a lot better than just a hand block is that the forearm is going to provide a lot more blocking area and is a lot more forgiving if you should miss by a couple of inches here or there. It's also a very strong block. I mean, your forearm's going to stop me coming in hard and fast. As long as your block is up there in time, I'm going to have a hard time coming through there. Whereas with your hand, obviously your fingers and your thumb, they're bendable, highly bendable at a high speed of me coming in, and your hands have a narrower field with which to block. So if you're out by an inch or so, well, you're probably in a bit of strife at that point. So let's see how this goes. So this is really a case of understanding the limitation of your technique. The technique I carried out here I usually would use for an overhead stabbing motion, and that would work quite well. Someone would stab overhead, I'd slap their arm out the way, I'd trip them or sweep them. You would find that their upper arm is blocked by my rib cage and they cannot actually turn the knife back on me. But at a lower level, and that's the question I had, what would happen? And as you can see in this image, I'd probably get sliced or stabbed. And I think that's the point of trialing and failing on purpose during training, is that you find not only the limitations of the techniques and how they can be used, and you filter down to those techniques that 99% of the chance will work for you, but also that you remove those questions in your mind, because if you don't remove them and eliminate certain questions you have, they may appear later on when you actually don't want those things to happen. Say, if someone really attacked me and I went, oh, well, I'll just slap it out of the way, at this point, I may have been at a disadvantage.
That was a nice one.
Yeah, so?
Ah, yes, it's gone. It's gone.
Oh, shit. You know I hate it. But go for it.
Let's go through it. Yep.
Sometimes when testing techniques at different levels or during movements you won't usually test, you find something better. So the technique I'm applying in the image you see just there is I usually use for a much lower level stab that is sweeping across the outside. So I thought, well, what if we use that technique instead of two hands up, one down, one up, like a Gidan Barai in the upper block, and I sweep open a windmill fashion and take them to the ground. Well, that worked, okay, but as you'll see later, William actually finds a shorter way to get there, purely by accident because of the way we move and we train all the time. And this technique now will not be executed this way again. It will be executed the new way we found.
Yeah.
That's the option.
You can't move out of there.
Yeah. Nice. Shit, I didn't expect that.
I didn't expect that either. I just put coming.
You should come in there, though.
Yeah.
That's only coming straight here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to roll off the end of this video showing a few of the other failures we concocted during this session, and sometimes just found by pure accident. It's worth noting that we don't spend every session tripping each other up, being difficult, failing on purpose and so on. We do have sessions obviously where we practice the tried and true techniques and keep practicing with repetition until they stick on our memory. But it is worth practicing a few sessions every now and then where you explore the limitations of techniques and frustrate each other trying to carry those techniques out. Obviously, don't do this to like absolute beginners, because you just frustrate them and they just get fed up with even trying. They won't learn anything basically. So you want to do this to things that you at least have some idea on how to execute, and that you have some idea how to flow from one thing to the next. The main question to be asked is what if, and what if I do this, what if they do that, what if they're not compliant, what if my partner isn't just standing there copping blows from me, and then find out what your solutions are. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll let you watch the rest.
You know what? Yeah, shit.
Nah, it won't work for that. I'm still going to have something. Oh shit.
Will you not? No, because you might be injured.
Yeah, I know. So
No, it's-
just yeah.
no.
No. Stab. Shit.
I'm in a whole world of pain.
Okay. Let's have a look at it. So you got your arm out,
Oh, yes, pretty much.
but I can break out too.
Yeah.
So if you grab me, you get a stab. I've really got shit. Yeah, nah. There's a point where you're just going to get
Yep.
in itself.
And watch out for
Is
this.
it up?
Yeah, watch out for that.
Yeah, I will.
Watch out for this.
Watch out for this.